Welcome to this daily PBJ devotional. Read 2 Samuel 20 and Ezekiel 27 today. This devotional is about 2 Samuel 20. Now a worthless man named Sheba, son of Bichri, a Benjamite, happened to be there, and he blew the ram's horn and shouted, "We have no share in David, no inheritance in Jesse's son. Every man to his tent, O Israel." So all the men of Israel deserted David to follow Sheba, son of Bichri. But the men of Judah stayed by their king all the way from the Jordan to Jerusalem. When David returned to his palace in Jerusalem, he took the 10 concubines he had left to care for the palace, and he placed them in a house under guard. He provided for them, but he no longer slept with them. They were confined until the day of their death, living as widows. Then the king said to Amasa, "Summon the men of Judah to come to me within 3 days, and be here yourself." So Amasa went to summon Judah, but he took longer than the time allotted him. And David said to Abishai, "Now Sheba, son of Bichri, will do us more harm than Absalom. Take your lord's servants and pursue him, or he will find fortified cities and elude us." So Joab's men, along with the Cherethites, the Pelethites, and all the mighty men, marched out of Jerusalem in pursuit of Sheba, son of Bichri. And while they were at the great stone in Gibeon, Amasa joined them. Now Joab was dressed in military attire, with a dagger strapped to his belt, and as he stepped forward, he slipped the dagger from its sheath. "Are you well, my brother?" Joab asked Amasa. And with his right hand, Joab grabbed Amasa by the beard to kiss him. Amasa was not on guard against the dagger in Joab's hand, and Joab stabbed him in the stomach and spilled out his intestines on the ground. And Joab did not need to strike him again, for Amasa was dead. Then Joab and his brother Abishai pursued Sheba, son of Bichri. One of Joab's young men stood near Amasa and said, "Whoever favors Joab, and whoever is for David, let him follow Joab." But Amasa wallowed in his blood in the middle of the road. And when the men saw that the troops were stopping there, he dragged the body off the road into a field and threw a garment over it. As soon as Amasa's body was removed from the road, all the men went on with Joab to pursue Sheba, son of Bichri. Sheba passed through all the tribes of Israel to Abel Beth Maachah, and through the entire region of the Berites, who gathered together and followed him. And Joab's troops came and besieged Sheba in Abel Beth Maachah, and built a siege ramp against the outer rampart of the city. As all the troops with Joab were battering the wall to topple it, a wise woman called out from the city, "Listen, listen! Please tell Joab to come here so that I may speak with him." When he had come near to her, the woman asked, "Are you Joab?" "I am," he replied. "Listen to the words of your servant," she said. "I am listening," he answered. Then the woman said, "Long ago they used to say, 'Seek counsel at Abel,' and this is how disputes were settled. I am among the peaceable and faithful in Israel. But you are trying to destroy a city that is a mother in Israel. Why would you swallow up the Lord's inheritance?" "Far be it," Joab declared. "Far be it from me to swallow up or destroy. That is not the case. But a man named Sheba, son of Bichri, from the hill country of Ephraim, has lifted up his hand against the king, against David. Deliver him alone, and I will depart from the city." "Look," the woman replied, "his head will be thrown to you over the wall." Then the woman went to all the people with her wise counsel, and they cut off the head of Sheba, son of Bichri, and threw it to Joab. So he blew the ram's horn, and his men dispersed from the city, each to his own home, and Joab returned to the king in Jerusalem. Now Joab was over the whole army of Israel. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, was over the Cherethites and Pelethites. Adoram was in charge of the forced labor. Jehoshaphat, son of Ahilud, was the recorder. Sheva was the scribe. Zadok and Abiathar were priests. And Ira, the Jerite, was David's priest. This is God's word. Joab was an outstanding military leader for David. Violence, however, was not just his thing on the battlefield. It was just about the only thing he knew. Earlier in 2 Samuel, his brother Asahel was killed in battle by Saul's top general, Abner. You can see that again in 2 Samuel chapter 2, verses 22 and following. Joab retaliated by murdering Abner in a non-military setting. That's 2 Samuel 3:27. That happened early on in David's administration as king of all Israel, and he did not deal justly with Joab, though he did condemn his actions, according to 2 Samuel chapter 3, verse 29. David paid a price for not dealing with Joab. In chapter 18, Joab killed David's son Absalom against David's explicit command, and when Absalom was completely defenseless. You can see 2 Samuel 18, verses 9 through 15 for more about that. As a result, David turned over leadership of his army to Amasa in chapter 19. As we read yesterday in 2 Samuel 19, verse 13, David said, "May God deal with me, be it ever so severely, if you are not the commander of my army for life in place of Joab." Here in chapter 20, Amasa had an opportunity to serve David and demonstrate his prowess as a military leader. Sheba rebelled against David in verses 1 through 3, and David commanded Amasa to get the men of Judah ready to fight against Sheba. Verse 5 told us, however, that Amasa failed to do what David commanded. It says in the NIV, "But when Amasa went to summon Judah, he took longer than the time the king had set for him." To keep matters from getting worse, David had to turn to Abishai, and Joab used the uncertainty of leadership to reassert himself as Israel's military leader again. You can see that in verses 9 and 10, and then again in verses 13 through 23. The lessons here are two. One, procrastination is a costly error for leaders. When verse 5 says that Amasa took longer than the time the king had set for him, I interpret that to be describing some amount of incompetence as a leader. David was an experienced fighter and leader. He knew how long it should take to muster the men of Judah and prepare them for battle. The fact that Amasa took longer than the time the king had set for him suggests either a lack of persuasion skills or, more likely, some amount of procrastination. Procrastination is a killer because it squanders opportunity. When you and I do other things to avoid the thing we should be doing, we are wasting time, energy, and possibly money, as well as opportunity. Except for money, all of those things are impossible to recover. If you're going to be an effective leader, then, don't be crippled by an inability to decide and take action. Secondly, effective people under your leadership may get the job done, but at what cost? Joab was very successful as a military leader, but David treated him as untouchable because of his great success. That was a mistake. David excused the unjust way Joab acted, and it came back to hurt David in multiple ways. As you serve the Lord in your daily work, don't procrastinate. Get to work ASAP and be effective at whatever you are planning or leading. Similarly, if you're a leader with an employee or a volunteer who is effective but cruel to others, fire that person ASAP. It will be hard to do because he or she is so effective, but it will save you time, money, and stress in the long run. I hope these applications are helpful to you today, and I hope you have a good day. We'll see you next time. May God bless you today as you seek to live for Him.